It's weird, this didn't taste that bad. But I had said a lot. All sugar-free things, and especially sparkling water, taste really bad, except for an old brand that changed their flavor from the 1980s, and a more recent thing I tried. So I probably said about 30 times that in the vicinity of this bottle that this will taste like trash. And then I poured it, and it didn't taste like trash. Did it taste like chemicals? Yeah. But it had flavor to it, which I didn't say. Sparkling water generally has flavor to it. So, what does that mean? Why does anyone care? You must be smoking crack, right? Well, what it means is everything I've been talking about is how things happen and things don't, and things seem set up in certain ways. Maybe that's the only reason things even happen is because things are being set up. Because I don't know, there's just a very important time frame there, and with a date marked on it that happened. And how does that happen unless we're writing the past and the future? I don't know if you've gotten that far yet, but so how does that work? How does that work there? I just like to put these videos out these days because I want to make sure that things aren't working and trying to include me in their work. So that right there is, I just said something like 30, 60 times and it didn't happen. And sometimes I say some words and it happens. And then you have New Age religion. You have New Age is the same age. Like William Cooper said, the New World Order is short on new and old, or it's short on order and old on new. And the New World Order uses the Egyptian pyramids and everything linked between it, uses links between it, and they're purposely dropping cookie crumbs that claim and stuff. Yeah, there's billions of them every day. So, yeah, maybe that's possible. They can drop some cookie crumbs, but I think that's interesting there. I can say that so many times, and then it's not like horrible and disgusting and tastes like water, which to me is horrible and disgusting, but this should taste like water with chemicals in it and carbonation, but it doesn't. Why that is? Wonder why some things appear to happen and weird things do happen, and then other things don't happen, and then other things do happen. Makes me I've tried to figure it out and sort it out, come to a conclusion. This is like a video game. It's like a rail-based story, but at first I was being told this is a group of people, and of course, if it were like a video game with a rail-based story, what's the story, right? So at first I was being told there's like a group of people, possibly aliens, enslaving the planet. And, well, they probably had technology forever and everything else. I feel that's acceptable because of the things I've seen and the design of the world. It's like a pre-built system. It layers together too many complex layers to actually settle upon each other properly to just be like random nonsense, it seems. But yeah, that's one of those things. If you get far enough into questioning things, you're gonna come along this new invention. Ain't so new. It's called New Age, and it's gonna. For me, things happen. Like I suppose people might get targeted and stuff. Like if you outthink one thing, maybe there's. Imagine like a group of tigers who just weren't the kings of the jungle or lions, and they had to like the hyenas, okay, and they weren't they could think though, and they're like, how can we do this? How can we get rid of these tigers and stuff? And yeah, kind of when I see it, it does parallel a lot of that. In fact, like a lot of the stories, somehow all the humans believe in and talk about as if it's just whatever. And it's like I wouldn't know anything about it if you didn't talk about it and force me through it, and then I lived through some of it. But that's not hard to do. It's just stories. Not hard to live through stories. I've lived through stories that are in horror movies, and just wow, that's cute, ain't it? So I just figure I should put this out because there's lots of people, or at least a few, saying certain things, and so I mean, people or what online, it's a different thing. But I meet people in real life, so it's not like just bots behind fake accounts online, which everyone's behind a fake account on YouTube. So that's odd. Although my one account, it so far doesn't put my information up there, so I don't know how often that happens, but it didn't used to happen, so I shouldn't, talk about that anyways. But this seems to be some things. Like more recently, I've been talking about, like we gotta end this, get this over with. If you've watched my channel in the past 2 years, then you know that. And so I keep saying, well, to make sure that we get rid of the problem and we don't have to remain here. We're trying to figure out how to do it. Especially if the humans have tried to kill me several times, and there are many humans several times. Technically, if that drugging thing was like trying to kill me, that was like years on end. That was like 1,000 times, like at least. And we kind of have to look at it that way. That's not about this. This is about this beautiful, delicious pineapple coconut Clover Valley. It's actually not beautiful and delicious. It's not bad. And I said how many times it's so horrible. I might have rebuked that, but I definitely was thinking that right before I opened it. Like, oh, what? I was pretty much like thinking like, well, I need to clean up the house. What can we throw away? So I opened this, like, might as well get it out of the way. I'm not gonna, get some beautiful lady coming around. I'm not gonna want to feed her any of this and stuff. So I got rid of it. It wasn't bad, and I was thinking that. And I don't know how far along you are, but so far I'm at the point where people are trying to convince me I'm inventing the world with my mind and stuff. And I'm like trying to like point out to these people that they sound kind of like liars and deceptors, because of how a lot of things worked and didn't work. So what happened is here was what didn't work is me saying this is going to taste like crap. It did have that sugar-free poison taste to it, which like what 98% of sugar-free stuff does. Mm. You know, your body and your mind's pretty smart sometimes. If you touch something and you think it's poison, you never know. It just could be your body saying, yeah, we don't like that stuff. We love hot sauce. And my body is like, no, don't do that. And this is what happens. I drink a bottle of hot sauce and my heart is like, checkmate. And then my throat is like, we're checking out of this place, dude. We're not staying here any longer. So when I drink some of the sugar-free stuff, it does that. So it's doing that, but it actually has some flavor to it. Not like a lot. I wouldn't recommend buying it because there's two brands at least. I think the more recent, it's the Gatorade, not Gatorade brand, but that one with the Sour Patch Kids thing on the front. Except for that was like gelatin, and it's a hydration drink, and it's making me like, it's like coating me with gelatin. It's still working to hydrate me. It's just a little bit hard because of the like gelatin shit makes me want to spit. And then whereas Pedialyte doesn't quite have that same gelatin like effect along with the hydration, but it's way better than Pedialyte. I mean, especially for a sugar-free drink. It's off the charts with flavor. I will tell you to go buy that. I'll pick some more up eventually. I want to try all their stuff now because I tried the one. But I just thought I'd put that out there. That you get that far, you get people. People are talking about that all the time. They don't know what they're talking about. Apparently, I question some people who like devote portions of their lives to words that have been written, and those written words kind of explain all this stuff. So it's weird when they look at me confused and scared when I start talking to them about the actual meaning of those words and not the parables written, not the loose end format placed in the words, but it's pretty much the same thing, you know, like places where Earth was created, things like that. And you can create things while you're here. It's like New Age isn't new. It's just another extension of previous things. But it's just weird, you know, how I can pretty much 92% of the words and thoughts I have, the thoughts I have pretty much probably be about 99%. That this stuff is going to taste horrible, and then I taste that, and it's not too shabby, and that's good for sugar-free. I don't need that stuff. I think it's like a scam, but I'm glad to hear one of my friends who felt he was overweight lost weight back in the 90s by drinking sugar-free. So I'm glad I get to hear that. Yeah, this for some reason this is potassium in it, but it's got 0% juice. Where the hell does that come from? That's crazy. If you don't understand how crazy that is, you know, watching your potassium intake and making sure you get enough and all that. I don't like water, so I try to find my way around it, and potassium is something that supposedly supports water being taken into the cells. And also, you know, I work out a lot, so good for the cramps, they say, and some things do work. Not sure about everything. I know if you take testosterone, and I'm sure estrogen, you'll notice that stuff working real fast. So Um, just give it a couple days and you'll probably want to stop using stuff like that because it works. So, what doesn't seem to work 100% is this new age or old age stuff. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and I look at who controls stuff, because really, is that not the most logical thing you think of? You should think of. People are like, oh, something's going on. Be like, well, who's doing it? Right? Pretty simple. Maybe I'm not getting the whole picture of how I should look at something. So when I look at that stuff and I see all those things are ran by one group, and then I've got invisible people, not really, but internet people, saying things like, well, the alien race enslaving the planet. In fact, they made a satire about that, which they removed from the internet as well. And actually, South Park, you might have heard of it before. And it was the one episode they removed from the internet. So that's kind of weird that would happen. So, and then you have the South Parkians coming around. The South Parkians actually, in their cartoon, they purposely create a character who is on to them, but they create him as a dumbass, fat ass, who it ends up with them, because in their Bible they have this story of Esther where you rape people, you act like you love and care for people to destroy them and their people and their nations and take over their nations. So it's odd because they made a cartoon about that and then told you that person ends up with those people. And it's like, yeah, in my life I do end up with those people around me, but I'm questioning why I have the same people around me so much, because I don't ask for anyone. Well, I do, but that person's never showed up. And so shouldn't have to ask for anyone either, because there's this weird stuff going on that's similar that almost makes you want to believe in the 32 different religions upon earth, the 14 true God, I'm going to kill you if you worship the other 300 gods, and then 27 family member God units, generally ran by the South Park creators and stuff, or making cartoons telling you that you're a fucking fat dumb piece of shit if you talk about them, and you're gonna get married to them if you talk about them. I think that's the biggest piece of truth I might have seen in South Park, is Cartman married one of them. Well, the book talks about that. The book says we're going to marry you and destroy you if you talk about us. That's the story of Esther. The Bible isn't isn't just about licking little children's penises. No, sir, it's not. In fact, it has very little talk of the sanctity and the love God has for children's penises, because I don't think you're going to be able to pass that. You gotta, that's one of those things you gotta add into a 300-page bill that gets passed in 5 minutes that no one's gonna read. Kind of like money going to nations who do these things are the God nations, right? So yeah, the New Age thing, it's been thin for a while because I was born. So when I was born, I'm like, oh my God, why are we here? I don't remember wanting to be here. I must have invented it with my mind. This stuff don't make sense, but these people tell it to you. You got they're telling you a giant bunny's coming here soon. And I can tell you, I've never seen a giant bunny hopping around. Nope. Maybe they call it Peter too. Maybe they look at the tail of rabbits and think of Peters, so they call it Peter. Who knows? Who knows? It's not very complex usually, but I might assume. I don't know for sure. And we'll never know, because no one will ever tell you that that stuff's not real. And if they do, they're going to tell you something else. So, the New Age stuff, is it real? How come this didn't taste like just extremely horrible? If I thought and felt and knew that most club soda has been, I mean, it's not club soda, okay, it's sparkling water. Most sparkling water has been kind of trashy since the 80s and stuff. There's New York Seltzer brand, which didn't have a lot of flavor, but it wasn't bad. It didn't have that sugar-free poison taste. And then you had Clearly Canadian, which was very delicious for, I don't even think that, almost certainly wasn't considered sparkling water, considering it had flavor. But so nowadays those brands are gone. Clearly Canadian came back, and it's just not the same. I'm pretty sure. I think I had one, and nothing's ever the same. You source products from somewhere else. You have a different chemist making the mixture, a different engineer designing the molds for the processing plant, beltways and dispensers, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. Burger King tastes different in different nations. It doesn't taste like Burger King. Just like it might actually be hot and fresh in other nations, and it might not be hot and fresh in the nations it comes from. Things could be different. Yep. So I thought I'd put that out because this doesn't taste horrible. Yet I was pretty sure it would, and I was mad at myself for wasting some money on it and space in the kitchen. So it turns out to be not very bad at all for some sparkling water stuff. I'm not like making a brand for this. I mean, like I said, I recommend that that other company making that Sour Patch Kids hydration drink, or can't think of its name right now, but I think that'd be the only sugar-free thing right now I can think of off the top of my head I would like. The other stuff tends to just taste so nasty. But that's how it works. If you start trying to figure out how things works, it seems to be that there's rabbit trails, and they're going to tell you that too. Maybe the people creating the rabbit trails are going to tell you about the rabbit trails, because look at what Alex Jones did, leading the people into some dumb capital thing. Although he led Hollywood actors there as well, and who knows how fake and staged that was. But he, at the same time, I was also warned of him like 10, 13 years before. Be careful, this guy, because he's collecting people's addresses and names for the government. And then what happens 10, 13 years later? January 4th happens, and they use all those people to get the names and addresses of everyone else involved and not involved. So that was something that was written that happened, and that was pretty obvious if you followed him and knew what was going on, especially if you followed the underground, where they expose him, and then a year later they just like ignored they did that, and all of a sudden it's Trump and Alex Jones, and those are the people who tell you, if you outthink what they're telling you, the other religions and stuff are what to follow. Be like, ooh, evil Satan. They're telling you who the enemy is you must go to if you don't like them. And then they're telling you who to worship if you do like them at the same time. And it just happens to be related people doing the same things, apparently. So, New Age is one of those groups. It feels like kind of scary being on Earth and weird. You have to be paranoid and full of anxiety all the time, and then even weirder when you learn, when you remember and get shown more that, yeah, you should probably just not listen to everything. But as many things as I just said, you would think if I'm inventing the world with my mind, that this would have been just pretty nasty. I don't know. I tried to give it a chance, but I just can't. You know, it's like looking at a cat turd on the ground and being like, well, usually they smell bad. I don't think they would taste good, because usually things that taste good don't smell bad. On a rare occasion, they do taste good if it smells bad. But, you know, that would be like me looking at a cat turd and being like, you know, that could be a delicious little chocolate bar right there. And me trying to convince myself, you know, saying once or twice, be like, this could be a good, I'm inventing it's going to taste horrible. That's really an exact parallel to this right here. Cat turds and modern sparkling water. I'm not too sure there's much of a difference. There's a little bit more flavor in cat turds, I'm assuming, by the smell, but sometimes that's deceiving. About 5% of the time, smell like, for some reason, you don't taste it, even though your taste is like associated with you like taste with your smell and stuff. Like, that's what the science, their new age science cult, or old age science cult, whichever it is, tells you. So I just thought I'd put out there. It's another thing. I put out stuff all the time that does happen, and I can probably just post a lot more that doesn't. And more recently, things have changed, and I just kind of I make assumptions about why things change at a certain point. A couple reasons, possibly. It can talk to me all at once, but it's been probably talking my whole life, so no thank you. Yep. Well, there you go. Not so delicious, not so horrible sparkling water, but my mind and my mouth were saying it was going to be bad. I wonder why that was. I wonder how that turned out so great. Did I just ignore it so much that it didn't come out that way? None of the stories here people are saying add up and stuff. It kind of adds up if you look at stories telling you, there's people telling you about stuff like that, and they're lying, deceiving aliens. Like, we're still trying to filter that out of the processes here, because how else are they in control of this and everything else, and doing the little things they do? But there you go. I didn't invent something with my mind, and it was acceptable quality. It was for sparkling water. It definitely wouldn't be acceptable for any real drink I wanted to drink. It's better than water, I think. And sometimes that spark, those chemicals in there, that free sugar, might dry you out or not feel too good. But I think I bought this mostly because it says it had potassium, and I was like, wow, this weird water has potassium. Where the hell does that come from? That's not free. 2% of potassium is 2 potassium pills. So you gotta have this huge pill just to get 1% of potassium, yet somehow other things have a whole bunch. Anyways, that'd be a whole nother discussion on vitamins and things like that. That'd be like That'd be like 100 million videos and stuff. But, yep, there we go. So I didn't invent it, and it turned out okay because of that. And yet we've seen this happen, and yet the only reason we have to discuss it is because we have people saying and doing otherwise.